So today we're here to talk about body planes. Body planes are planes that run along the X, the Y, and the Z axes of the body. Okay, so these are really important and they're used when we're talking about medical imaging. So looking at the results of a CT scan, an MRI scan, or a PET scan. These are used to identify the location of internal organs and different components within those organs. These are also used to help describe the anatomical motion of body parts. It allows people to discuss the range of motion as well for the different limbs of the body. These planes can also be used when looking at the development of an embryo. And we have 3 of these planes that we're going to be talking about today. So I made this little apple with a face on it to help talk about these planes. The first plane that we're going to be talking about today is going to be a frontal plane or a coronal plane. This is a plane that will divide the body into a front and a back, or an anterior and a posterior segment. Okay, if we wanted to look at that, I have that paper there, but also we can go ahead and we can cut our little apple face here, and we will see that we now have along the coronal or frontal plane, we've made a cut, and now we have a front and a back to our apple. Okay, the next plane that we're going to talk about is a transverse plane. This is a horizontal plane. This plane will divide the body into a top and a bottom section, or an inferior and a superior section. Superior being the top and inferior being the bottom. If we wanted to cut our apple face along that transverse plane, we would now have a top and a bottom half. That's along the transverse plane. Okay, now the last plane that we're going to be talking about is going to be the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane is going to be a plane that divides the body into a left and a right side, a left and a right section. If it is along the midline, okay, the median of the body, that's a mid-sagittal plane. But that sagittal plane, it doesn't necessarily have to be splitting the body right down the center. It could be anywhere parallel to the median or the midline of the body. Okay, so these would all be sagittal planes. Okay, if we wanted to make a cut along that sagittal plane, what we would see is we would then have a left and a right side. Okay, thanks so much for coming today to talk about body planes. Remember, these are important because they can be used when looking at and identifying different internal organs of the body and their different components. The body planes are also important because they can help describe anatomical motion, and they can be used when looking at the developmental changes of an embryo. All right, those 3 planes: the transverse plane, which is going to divide body into a top and a bottom. Okay, the frontal or the coronal plane, that's going to divide the body into a front and a back, an anterior and posterior section. And then we had the sagittal plane. That sagittal plane could be anywhere parallel to the midline, and it's going to divide the body into a left and a right section. Thanks a lot.